I always knew my mother-in-law Patricia didn't like me, but I never imagined she would stoop so low as to try sabotaging my pregnancy when I needed support the most. When my husband Mark and I announced we were expecting our first child after 2 years of trying, I thought she would finally warm up to me and embrace her role as a grandmother. Instead, Patricia's jealousy and resentment reached dangerous new levels as she realized that this baby would cement my place in her son's life forever. She had always made it clear that she thought Mark could do better than me, constantly making snide comments about my career, my appearance, and my family background whenever we visited. But what she did during my pregnancy crossed every line imaginable and put both my baby and me at serious risk in ways that still make my blood boil when I think about it. The sabotage started subtly during my first trimester when Patricia began sharing horrifying pregnancy stories every time she saw me, describing graphic details about miscarriages, birth defects, and maternal deaths. She would call me constantly with articles about everything that could go wrong during pregnancy, claiming she was just trying to keep me informed and prepared for potential complications. When I mentioned feeling morning sickness, she told me it was probably a sign that something was wrong with the baby, and when I complained about fatigue, she suggested that maybe I wasn't strong enough to carry a healthy child to term. She also started undermining my relationship with Mark by telling him that I was being overly dramatic about my symptoms and that pregnant women in her generation were much tougher and didn't complain about every little discomfort like I was doing. Things escalated dramatically during my second trimester when Patricia began actively interfering with my medical care and trying to convince Mark that I was making poor decisions about our baby's health. She would show up uninvited to my doctor's appointments, questioning my physician's recommendations and suggesting alternative treatments that she had read about online. She constantly criticized my diet, telling Mark that I was eating too much sugar and not enough protein, which could cause gestational diabetes and harm the baby. She even went so far as to throw away my prenatal vitamins and replace them with different ones that she claimed were better, without telling me about the switch until I discovered it weeks later. The stress she was causing was affecting my blood pressure, and my doctor warned me that I needed to find ways to reduce anxiety for the health of my pregnancy. The most dangerous part of Patricia's sabotage came when she started tampering with my medication and trying to control what I ate during family gatherings. I have a thyroid condition that requires daily medication to maintain proper hormone levels during pregnancy, and I discovered that she had been crushing up herbal supplements and mixing them into my food without my knowledge. When I confronted her about it, she claimed she was just trying to give me natural remedies that would be better for the baby than pharmaceutical drugs. She also began preparing meals for me that contained ingredients I had specifically told her I couldn't eat due to pregnancy restrictions, like raw fish, unpasteurized cheese, and high-mercury seafood. When I would refuse to eat these foods, she would guilt-trip Mark by saying I was being ungrateful and difficult, creating constant tension between us during what should have been a joyful time. My breaking point came when I was 7 months pregnant and caught Patricia trying to rearrange our nursery according to her own vision, throwing away items we had carefully chosen and replacing them with things she preferred. She had somehow gotten a key to our house from Mark and was letting herself in while we were at work, going through our personal belongings and making changes without permission. The final straw was when I found her going through my medical records and calling my doctor's office pretending to be me to get information about my pregnancy progress and test results. She was essentially stalking my pregnancy and trying to control every aspect of it, treating me like an incubator rather than a person with my own rights and choices. I knew I had to take action to protect myself and my unborn child from her increasingly dangerous behavior. Instead of confronting Patricia directly, I decided to document everything she was doing and let her own actions speak for themselves when the time was right. I installed security cameras throughout our house to catch her unauthorized visits and started recording our conversations when she would make inappropriate comments or suggestions. I also began keeping a detailed journal of every incident, including dates, times, and witnesses when possible, building a comprehensive case of harassment and endangerment. My plan was to present all this evidence to Mark and demand that we set serious boundaries with his mother, but karma had other plans that worked out even better than anything I could have orchestrated. Sometimes the universe has a way of delivering justice when you least expect it, and Patricia was about to learn that lesson in the most brutal way possible. The instant karma began when Patricia decided to throw herself a grandmother shower without asking us, inviting all her friends and family members to celebrate her upcoming role as a grandmother. She had been telling everyone that she was practically raising this baby herself because I was too young and inexperienced to handle motherhood properly. During the party, she stood up to give a speech about how she would be the primary caregiver for her grandchild and how she had already made arrangements to help with everything from feeding schedules to discipline methods. She was essentially announcing to a room full of people that she planned to take over my role as a mother, and she did all of this without consulting Mark or me about any of her grandiose plans for our child's future. The beautiful irony unfolded when Mark's aunt, who Patricia had never liked, stood up during the speech and announced that she had some concerns about Patricia's behavior that she needed to share with everyone present. Mark's aunt revealed that she had been receiving disturbing phone calls from Patricia, where she talked about taking the baby away from me because I was unfit to be a mother and how she was planning to prove that I was mentally unstable. She also shared that Patricia had been spreading rumors about my pregnancy throughout their extended family, claiming that I was lying about the due date and that the baby might not even be Mark's child. The room fell completely silent as these shocking revelations came to light, and Patricia's carefully constructed image as a caring grandmother-to-be crumbled before everyone's eyes. The brutal karma continued when several other family members began sharing their own stories about Patricia's inappropriate behavior and manipulative tactics over the years. Mark's cousin revealed that Patricia had tried to break up his marriage by spreading lies about his wife, and Mark's sister admitted that Patricia had been sabotaging her relationships for years out of jealousy and control issues. As more and more people spoke up, it became clear that Patricia had a long history of toxic behavior that everyone had been too afraid to address directly. The grandmother shower she had planned as a celebration of her importance turned into a public intervention where her own family members confronted her about decades of manipulation, lies, and emotional abuse that had damaged multiple relationships within their family. The aftermath was swift and decisive, as Mark finally saw his mother's true nature and immediately cut contact with her to protect our growing family. He was horrified to learn about all the ways she had been sabotaging my pregnancy and endangering our baby's health with her reckless interference and medication tampering. Patricia lost not only her relationship with us but also the respect and trust of her entire extended family, who now understood the pattern of toxic behavior she had been hiding for years. She ended up completely isolated, with no access to her future grandchild and no support system because her own actions had destroyed every important relationship in her life. The baby she had tried so hard to control and claim as her own would grow up never knowing her grandmother, and Patricia would have to live with the consequences of her sabotage for the rest of her life. Sometimes karma doesn't need your help to deliver the perfect punishment, and watching Patricia face the brutal consequences of her own toxic behavior was more satisfying than any revenge I could have planned myself.